Hey everybody, the push stick video I put out a couple of days ago, I realized I might have overlooked a couple of things when the comments started coming in. And yes, I do read your comments. I took it for granted that everybody knows how to cut a notch, but I realized that you wanted to see how I do it. So in this short video, I'll complete the process and talk about a couple of other things too. Now the size of the push stick, I actually incorporated the golden rectangle. I didn't want to mention that because I know the haters out there will say, man, you're so crazy, you know, this is just a push stick, why are you getting so technical? What I actually did was I multiplied the 6 inches by the golden ratio, which is 1.618, to give me the length. And that came out to be like 9.7 something. So that's about 9 3/4 inches, so I just rounded off to 10 inches. I didn't want some of you to take it for granted and go to the extreme and trying to get it exact, dealing with fractions. Now I know this is just a push stick, but it's close to a golden ratio push stick. Now some of you asked about the protractor that I use in the video. I'll put a link in the video description below. Now some of you also asked me about why don't I make a push stick with a replaceable heel. Well, now when you're cutting a piece of wood and you're bringing the push stick through the saw, you're not only cutting the heel, but you're cutting the push stick also. So there's no way that you can just replace this part. You're gonna have to get rid of all this. So what I usually do is after this is all chewed up like this, I just bring my saw back, cut this off, and then cut a new heel. Now normally when I'm cutting, I always like to raise the blade so that the common gullet is above the wood. So maybe something like this. So I am going to cut this part off. Now I'm going to move it over about 5/16 or 1/4 of an inch. Okay, that's how big I want my heel to be. Now here the angle is a little bit steep, a little bit shallower, so I'm going to raise the blade up. It looks kind of scary, but for this purpose, I think it'll be fine. So I am going to cut right about where this is, or right about here. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to stop shy. Just hold it in place until it stops. Now I'm going to take it to the bandsaw and then remove this. Then remove this part here. Now before we start routing our push sticks, we have to change the bit. Remember, we had the template on top before, so that's why we have the bearing on top. Now this becomes our template or our pattern. So we're going to have to change to a bit that has a bearing on the bottom so it rides along like this and cut this way. Now I made my stop as my backing board, so when it comes through this way, it would prevent any tear out. The problem is this. My jig here is riding over here, but when it comes off, it's going to cut into my jig here, so I want to prevent that. So I am going to get a piece of wood, and I'm just going to glue it on like that, so the bearing will just ride along here, and it won't touch my jig. Now some of you might ask, well, why don't you just cut it like this in the first place? Well, it's very difficult to cut this in an angle. And also, if I don't have this notch here, it's hard for me to keep this thing flush and have it aligned correctly. So it's easier for me to just cut a piece of wood, stick in here and glue it up. But either way, you can do it either way you want. So I'm just going to be right here. Put glue from here to here. And then glue from here. That's it. Now that the jig is ready, it's dry, I'm going to start from the inside. So I got a 1/4 inch round over bit in here. I'm going to round over everything but the bottom. I'm just going to draw a line right here. I'm going to take about 5/16 of an inch off the bottom. If I take a 3/8, it just seems a little bit too much, but it's up to you. 1/4 would be a little bit too little. So I'll raise the blade up a little bit more, so the angle would be a little bit steeper. So remember, we can get multiple uses out of this. If this gets chewed up like this, just cut it off and put another hook on it. For those of you that are strapped with time, the templates, my push sticks, are on my website. Same with my sanding blocks. Now the protractor some of you guys are asking for is also on back order, but I'm having a pre-sale right now. These are kind of cool because it measures the inside angle and also outside angle. These comes in standard, American standard, and also it measures in metrics. So if you want to support my channel, head over to my website and pick up a few things. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.